up. Okay. All right. So this is the Afterburn, where we get to ask questions and share comments and thoughts about today's teaching and maybe get some clarifications on what was said. And we're going to begin with Janet.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Oh, by the way, the medical team is outside for anybody that got wounded by the teaching. You can meet the medical team in the back. All right. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, this is just amazing how real you are with us. I so much appreciate that, and the authority that you have when you straighten things up and make it right. And it's just amazing. So I praise Yahweh for that, Rabbi. Rabbi, when you were talking about trustworthiness, right? The last verse that you read about the righteous man,
Yeah.
Proverbs 7.
Yeah, walks in integrity.
Yes, walks in his integrity. And then it says, and his children are blessed after him.
Right.
So I was thinking about Father Abraham. It's Genesis 18:19. For I have known him that he commands his children and his household after him to guard the way of Yahweh, to do righteousness and right ruling, so that Yahweh brings to Abraham what he has spoken to him.
Right.
So when he says his children are blessed, is that because a righteous man or filled with integrity is walking it out, walking the Torah, and the children get to see that and follow his example, or that?
All right, I think there's a misunderstanding.
Thank
here,
you.
Okay? So I don't think the assumption should be that Abraham, because he walked it out so well, everybody in his family and household and everybody in his camp did everything right. Just because he did and he led by example. What he said was he commanded those that were there correctly, and if they didn't follow, they ended up out. Okay? Because that's where the integrity is. This is my expectation in my house, and you're welcome to stay in my house as long as you meet my expectation. That's the Father, too. The Father, we're talking about, when he says, as a metaphor, he says, my house, my mansion has many, many rooms, right? And so understand that's, I think with Abraham, I'm sure there still were challenging children. Okay, it wasn't like they were exempt from challenging children. We had the first children ever born, there was a challenging one with Cain and Abel, right? One of them was very challenging. Okay, so Abraham was not exempt from that. Certainly we see that Isaac then has a problem with some children, and Jacob has a problem with some children. So we see that kind of go down the line, right? So we're talking about the idea that the man with integrity is commanding his house, okay? My house had full integrity with my children in it. I didn't have full control over everything I did not in my house, but nothing was going on in my house that I had any control over that wasn't in integrity with my rules for that house. You understand? And that's where all of you have got 16, 17-year-olds, you can let them know, look, this stuff that you're trying to do right now, you can't do it. You want to wait till 18 and move out, that's fine. You do it on your own, in your own house. You can't do these things in my house. That doesn't mean I make them believe certain things. It doesn't mean I make them come to Sabbath services once they get to a certain point. Like, my 18-year-old can stay in my house as long as my 18-year-old respects the house. Okay? Meaning when in the house, you respect the house. And I think that's really more what Yahweh's saying about Abraham. Abraham had a family and an extension of all these people that had followed with him, okay, that were joined to him, and they were all under his authority, and he commanded them with integrity. And then those who would follow were blessed. Okay? Did that help?
Absolutely. Thank you for clarifying. That was great. So trustworthiness, right? So you were saying, can you walk this out with enough integrity and trustworthiness? Right. So, but it's not just the Torah. Meaning, obviously, Torah is part of our life, right? Whether we're working or whatever we're doing in relationships, in our decisions, we should have that, like you say, vertical connection or awareness. But I think like it has to do more with our character, right? Like our yes be yes or no be no. What he said, he did. And we should be like him.
Trustworthy with integrity is a description of character, a specific type of character, right? Good character. Okay?
Yes. So if we're lacking in that, like I'm still working on it. So do you have any life coaching kind of
the number one thing is this, okay? As a step one. Okay, we'll make this a step one. All right? The step one is if you say it, mean it. which has an addendum to it. If you don't mean it, shut up, don't say it, okay? We like to run our mouths, even when we don't mean it, but we're emotional at the moment, so we just want to run our mouth because we want to make a point, we want to get somebody mad at us, we want to impress them, whatever it is. Don't say what you're not going to follow through with, okay? Look, I remember when we were first married and we were starting to have children, Uncle Bob, Shamish Uncle Bob, had a CD set for child rearing. I don't know what the set was, it was a big set. Anyway, and in there, one of the things that I really remember from listening to it was, don't be a liar. He said, what do you mean, don't be a liar? If you tell your child, if you do this, this is gonna happen, it better happen or you're a liar. So either don't say it or follow through, but don't be a liar. I also like the set because the guy did use the color code for raising children and did endorse that red was the best color. Okay, so, because the guy making the CDs was red. Okay, so, do you remember that? Okay, so, anyway, but the point is, learn to not say anything if you're not going to follow through and mean it, right? Have integrity in your word. I told you this the other day when we went through this, I don't know, when it was one of the teachings in the last couple of sessions. I said, my children never ever, just once, the very first time, just to learn that lesson, ever tested me when I said something was done for a week, done for 3 days, whatever, done. They never tested to try to get me to change my mind because they knew I wouldn't, okay? And you're like, man, I wish I could do that with my kids. No, your kids already know they can push you to change your mind. If they can annoy you enough, you'll change your mind, just to shut them up. I got them more afraid of running their mouth because it was going to keep getting worse for them. Okay, you're the one suffering. I'm not going to suffer. You're going to bother me, you're going to suffer. Okay, don't ask me to change my mind. I take Yahweh's example he says, I am Yahweh, I change not. I'm Dad, I change not. If I give you a ruling, it's a ruling. I'm not changing, okay? I'm not saying I change not as a human being, meaning I don't grow. I'm saying if I'm in an authority situation, I take it like I'm Yahweh. I'm not going to say it if I don't mean it. If I say it and mean it, I am not changing. That's going to be what that's going to be. Okay? Is that good, Janet? All right, good. All right, Anna.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So my question is, if you are suicidal or you're feeling suicidal, is that proof that you don't know him?
No. I mean, it is, but it isn't, okay? Because when you're feeling suicidal, when people are feeling these really strong negative emotions, they've got all kinds of things going on that would make it impossible to really deal with focusing on him. They're too much in themselves and what's happening in their world in themselves. So people that really struggle and start thinking suicidal thoughts, it's because they're wanting to quit dealing with now. I'm tired of being me in this place, or I'm tired of the way people see me, treat me in this place, and you're not thinking of the vertical. You're not thinking outside about anybody that might miss you because you think nobody would, okay? Or you're wanting to lash out and wanting them to be all suffering because you're feeling your own suffering. I don't think that it's not trusting him. I don't think you can even get close to trusting him from that place because you can't even imagine anything outside of the pain you're in right this moment. That's the only thing real to you at the moment. And you're looking to get away from that. You want that to stop. That sound about right? Okay? And so I think, yes, you're not trusting him or not knowing him enough, but I think you're blocked from being able to until you realize that you have to stop only focusing on yourself. Look, all of you super depressed and suicidal people, don't get mad at me. I'm trying to help you. You are the most selfish people on the planet because everything has turned out into about you. And then you're thinking, well, it is about me. Mom thinks about me, and my boss thinks about me, and this one thinks. No, you're receiving it that way. Almost none of that stuff is about you, but you've received it like it's about you. Stop thinking about you. Take your eyes off of you. You'll feel better, okay? The more miserable you want to be, focus only on yourself. I mean, like all your shortcomings, you want to feel really good, focus on yourself from how can I improve? How can I grow? What can I do right now that would make me feel fulfilled? And how can I help somebody else and bless somebody else? That's a different approach. But if you're only going to wallow in and focus on all the things not right, you'll find plenty of them and be miserable. So the suicidal comes from the inability to find a way to cope with and deal with the fact that the world sucks and you're not perfect, okay? I mean, I'm just gonna be as blunt and simple as this. The world sucks and you're not perfect. And that's everybody. And some of us handle it better than others. Some of us are on the extreme end of, hey, I'm doing great, doesn't matter. And some people on the other extreme end of, I can't take it anymore, I wanna die. Most of you are in the middle somewhere, okay? Miserable with a little bit of optimism, all right? And so anybody that's feeling that way, please get some counsel and have that counsel hopefully be about not just respinning everything wrong in your life, but trying to find you a way to have something to look forward to in life. Create optimism. We call that hope in the scripture, right? That I can deal with everything in this world because I have a hope of a better world coming. I have a hope. So should you. So why should I worry about all this? I also understand what this is. It's supposed to be miserable so I can pass all these tests and overcome all of this stuff and find a way to elevate, which we've been talking about a lot, right? This elevating into this higher state of covenanted human being. See, human being is one level. Covenanted human being should be an elevated state, okay? The fruit of the Spirit is an elevated state. At an elevated state, you can have love, joy, peace, patience, etc., all right? Hard to have at a lower state. When you have yourself at a very low vibrational state, a very low internal state, you're gonna wanna end life, because who would wanna live like that? Let me tell you also what's probably happening to all you suicidal people, all right? You've gotten to a place where you think that you're existing and not living. And you don't want to exist. Nobody wants to exist. I don't want to exist, I want to live. You understand what I'm saying? And that's why you watch a lot of older people when they really find themselves challenged to do things and they start wanting to die because they've gotten to a point where they didn't plan for that level of, let's call it limited ability. They didn't plan for the limited ability at the older age, and so now they just exist. And existence is really hard, it's miserable, okay? So you need to find life you gotta bring life into you, which is like things to do that are life. Life is in loving others. Life is in giving. Life is not in receiving. Life goes outward, okay? Who's the source of life? Okay? And so that source of life, is it all going towards him or is it coming down towards us? Life emanates out of the Father. Life emanates into everything that exists. Life goes outward. We're supposed to be flow-throughs. Bring that life into me so I can share that life with others. All right? Got to take your focus off of you. Find somebody, something, a pet, doesn't matter, anything to focus on other than you. That's the first step. Care about something. All right? It's already clear you don't care about you. And it's maybe because you think nobody cares about you, which is ridiculous, but maybe you got miserable people in your life that convince you that nobody cares about you. Go meet better people. I'm serious. I'm sure I can find a lot of people that do not like me. And if I keep looking, I'll find some that like me. So it doesn't matter. Some don't like me. I'll just keep looking until I find ones that do. But if I don't like me, it doesn't matter. I'm going to read it the whole wrong way no matter what. Okay? Love, that first part of the aspect of the Ruach, right? The fruit of the Spirit. Got to start with love towards self. That's what we were doing, right, with the Omer count. Day one of Omer count was love towards self. You know why? Because if you can't do that, none of the rest of it happens. But there's nothing about me to love. You need to talk to somebody, okay? You know, I know it's come up a bunch of times. I really appreciated my wife talk about it during the announcements, the idea that I'm going to be taking a so-called, I say so-called, these are not really my daughters, but I've got a lot of women that have looked for a father figure who've never had a good father figure, okay? And guess what happened when you have a bad father experience or a lack thereof? You're missing things about finding ways to love yourself, because a really good father will help instill in you a good self-esteem, a good self-value, a good self-worth. And so a lot of these women, when they come and they get this sort of foster fathering that I can do for them, only because in my experience with my own daughter, I feel like I've really learned how to do that. They see the results in her and they say, can I have that too? Okay? And so why would you want to exist if you don't feel like you have value, if you have no self-worth, if everybody thinks you're worth nothing, you're garbage, you're a loser, all you do is cause trouble in the house, everything's your fault, that noise has got to stop. Because first of all, it's all junk, it's garbage, it's BS, it's nonsense, all right? But you're believing it, that's the problem. Well, everybody's saying it must be true. No, just a bunch of idiots are saying it who don't love you because they don't know how to, because they don't love themselves. Nobody can say such harsh things who loves themselves. So that, remember, out of the abundance of the heart, so all that ugliness that's in there already is coming out at you. Which, by the way, probably came out from their parent to them, and it's just this generational curse going on by everybody imitating that. And you know what? If you don't figure it out, one of two things are going to happen. You're either going to kill yourself, or you're going to do the same thing to your next kid, because you're going to have all that ugliness now you're going to share to the next generation. Or you could choose life. You could choose to ignore the noise. You could believe that Yahweh didn't make any garbage, didn't make any junk, didn't make anybody that was completely useless or whatever, that he does love everyone, and then maybe you can find a man in your life properly that will look at you and correct you properly when needed. All those daughters will tell you, I correct them when needed. And some of them, my wife said, is true. Some of them are older than me. I got several of them that are older than me. But they never had a man in their life who would treat them with respect, make them feel safe, and with the integrity, help them to see the worth in themselves. Okay? And that's where they end up in that place of, I just want to quit. I can't deal with this anymore. It hurts too much. When it shouldn't hurt that much. Okay? And so I have a lot of people, you hear them give little testimonies when they come up here because there's a lot of pain that has been eased away because of that relationship, all right? And I praise Yah that my wife lets me to be able to do all of that, you know? And it's to me, it's the saddest thing to watch, okay? To see that terrible gaping hole in their growth because they didn't have what they should have had, especially the ladies. And it affects the boys too. The boys not having a dad is terrible, okay? But boy, it really destroys the women. Because then they start looking for it in all the wrong places, in all the wrong forms, in all the wrong ways, because they just want a man to be there to give them that self-esteem, self-worth, that value, provide and protect and everything else. And that's where you end up with these teenage ones that are all pregnant and with these older guys and all this other, just this dumb stuff. All right? So I appreciate the question, Anna. It's a good one. And so any of you out there, please call here, call somebody to find somebody that will speak to you with honesty, okay? And say, you are a wonderful daughter or son. I don't know if she was talking about a man or woman who might be thinking that. You know, you're a child of the living Elohim. You have worth. You have value. Tremendous worth, tremendous value. Even though you don't see it and people around you haven't seen it, or at least they have, I'm sure they've seen it, they just won't say it. That's the problem, okay? But you need to hear it, okay? You notice that we're talking about in this teaching a phrase. What's the phrase we've been teaching? Well done, good, and the phrase is something that is not something that's being thought. He knows we want to hear it. We need to hear, okay? When you do something well, you want somebody to say, hey, I appreciate it. That was a great job. That builds our self-worth, builds our sense of value. So that's why it's something in the parable is something we get to hear. It's something we desire to hear. Hear him say, good job, well done. All right? So I'm glad we got to do this session, this part of the Afterburn just for that piece, because somebody needed really to hear that. Okay? Please, nobody out there, don't quit. All right? Don't quit. The amount of love and joy that you can still experience, I know you can't imagine, but I can imagine. And I can tell you from people that I've dealt with who never could imagine, and now they can imagine, okay? Don't quit. Call here, okay? Ask to be a daughter. Find out what that can be like to have somebody who'll speak truth to you and value you, all right? All right, Amy.
So when the disciples were in the boat and the wind was whipping around and everything, well, no, when Peter walked out on the water, and he was doing just fine until he looked around and saw the waves. So when I read that, I think of like on my walk, I'm doing just fine until I look around at the world. And then when I look at the scary things in the world, I kind of start to sink, and I have to cry out for Yeshua. So I think that's kind of what Peter, like the waves kind of represent the world. When you take your eyes off of the Messiah and look at the world, you kind of start to sink.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what normally is taught, right? And the normal teaching is, hey, you take your eyes off Messiah, you're going to sink. But I wanted to explain to you why. Okay? Because in taking the eyes off, he took his eyes off because he was distracted by and the fear that was stirred up by the wind and all those other things. So absolutely, you need to know that. Look, I don't do this, and I really am sad that other ministries do this. I don't think, let me rephrase that. I think it's a horrible thing that these guys do when they foster the discussion about, well, look at what's going on in the world, and look what's happening on those college campuses, and look at all these riots that are happening, and look what's happening in the middle. Stop that. Okay, right now I want you to hear from this ministry. We, as a ministry, do not care what's happening outside. Okay? When I say that, I mean, in other words, it doesn't affect what you should be doing. Okay? The fact that the world has lost its mind and seems like it's getting worse should not affect you. In other words, you should be aware of it so you can be more cautious in certain things, or be aware that certain things are actually now possible, that when I was like 20 years old, nobody was doing these things, whatever, okay? But know these things are happening, learn how to react properly to them. But please, these ministries out there are fear-mongering, trying to turn everything into end times always hinting but never saying straight out that, oh, I think he's coming soon and all this stuff. Stop that, okay? He's coming whenever he's coming. It doesn't matter to you, and it shouldn't matter to you. What matters to you is what are you found doing, and are you prepared for whenever that is? And so I watch other ministries just to see, checking that pulse. What are they teaching? Especially I know ones that you guys and others like you will start picking up on. And I hear them, they let people get on the mic, and then people say, oh, but what, I'm so concerned about what's happening now in our college campuses, and I'm concerned about what's happening in this, and I'm concerned about... And I would have, if I was supposed to say, I understand that, but you show lack of faith here. Why are you concerned? Do you not know that it says? I've said this to all of you guys many times. It's going to get worse. I mean, right? Isn't that what the book says? I mean, this is nothing. It's going to get a lot worse. So should I be upset about it? I'm not happy about it, but should I let it disturb my peace, distract me, make me all agitated and fearful and stressed? Because I got a bunch of people contact me on a regular basis going, I'm very stressed about, well, why? He told us this would happen. Why are you stressed about it? He also said you're going to get through it. So why are you stressed about it? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't understand. And we still have people in this ministry do the same thing. In a zone meeting or whatever, they'll be asking all about, well, I'm very... Stop. Here's another thing, okay? It doesn't matter what country you're in, they're all going to be in the same boat. I mean, if your country already is impossible to live in, fine, leave. What I'm saying is, don't think there's a place to go to that's not going to have any problems. When it all hits, it's going to hit everywhere. Nowhere in the book does it say it hits everywhere except whatever country you think is going to be safe. All right? So go where you think you can do this walking the best you can at the moment, not because you think you're going to somehow avoid what's coming, because you won't. There's no avoiding it in this book. It doesn't, oh, what about the rapture? Rapture has nothing to do with this. The rapture was invented only 300 years ago, okay? As an idea, there was a footnote in some Bible somewhere that the church decided to run with. There is the verse, yes, it says we will meet him, but we're meeting him on his way somewhere. And where he's going is the Mount of Olives for a battle. Okay, so we're meeting him. We've already gone through this whole tribulation thing. So we're not getting taken away before all of that, and then we're ending up in the battle. Go listen to the Millennium and Kingdom. I explain all that, all right? Okay? But just so we're clear, we will not get sucked into, don't ever try, I'll shut you down immediately, into fear-mongering and strain and stress and worry about whatever the world is doing. Not happening, okay? We're going to have shalom in all things, at all times. You know why? Because we know he is in charge. He's in charge. He's in control. We know that. We're not just thinking that or believing. We know. We know he's in charge. Okay? We don't hope he's in charge. We don't, kind of have our fingers crossed and this and that. No, we know he has it all under control. He's causing or allowing, and he says in here he's going to allow it to get really bad. All right? I'm okay with that. Are you okay with that? If you're not, you don't need to be here. In other words, you're in the wrong place, not just this building. I mean, you're in the wrong place. If you're using this and you're not okay with it getting as bad as he says it's going to get, you go study something else. It won't change the fact that it's still going to happen. Okay? See, he told them, go in the boat, go across. He tells us, hey, walk this out, but it's all going to go to hell in a handbasket. Okay? He tells us. He says, but if you do what you're supposed to do, you'll be fine. You might die and be martyred, but you'll be fine. Why should you be worried about that? I wouldn't be worried about that. I believe what he says. You claim you do you? Do you guys believe what he says? That didn't sound very good. Do you believe what he says? All right, so let's act like it, have integrity, right? All right, Deirdre.
Ooh. Always on a day when I'm not wearing my waterproof mascara.
Well, because you've had some of the daughter experience.
I have. I feel like Yahweh has just confirmed something from your mouth that I have been struggling with. And I have felt so guilty about not being able to do, like, I knew I wouldn't be able to, like, watch a sermon every day or read my Bible every day. But I tried doing at least one thing every day. And even that couldn't work. Because I'm homeschooling and I'm taking care of Freddie, who's little. And sometimes the day is just super full, and I had just, into the time that I had allotted, that I thought, sure, that would fit. It didn't. And I would get so frustrated and so bent out of shape because I felt like I was failing Yahweh. Failing him. And finally, I just said, Abba, I'm done. You gave me this struggle. You gave me this. So I'm trusting that you are going to be okay with me not getting to things. I'm trusting that you are going to be okay with me not having that time every day. But just help me. And I try to pray this every morning when I wake up and say, Father, thank you for waking me up. Please help me to be the mommy that my children need me to be. Please help me to be the wife that my husband needs me to be. Please help me to be the sister that my congregation members need me to be. Help me to be the daughter that both sets of my parents need me to be. And help me to be the Israelite that you have called me to be. And may the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, because you are my rock and my redeemer.
Amen.
And what you just said on the microphone, that freed me, and it's the nearest. That is the nearest I have ever gotten to feeling him kiss me on my forehead and saying, good girl.
Well, there you go. Awesome.
So
Just to be clear, I only kissed my one daughter, Brianna, on the forehead, nobody else. Okay, just so you know.
I meant, Yahweh kissing me on the forehead, not you. Yahweh.
Well, you were crying so much I couldn't understand what you said. I just heard something about a kissing on the forehead.
No, I felt...
And the fact that you heard the part that said good girl. Okay.
Yes.
Look, I've told you this, I'm glad you finally are receiving it, because I've been trying to tell you, you're okay. Your role is to parent those children. Your role is to be a wife to your husband, right? And the thing is, you have to have peace with your role, not the role you want or the role you think you're supposed to have. You are in the role you're in. Okay, now, things do change. Okay, your children will grow older, and when they grow older, you will have different availabilities of time. and different responsibilities in your role, okay? But that's, over time, all right? But right now, the fact that you get to listen to as much as you do, okay, and come to services and hear what you hear here, all right, well then, you're doing plenty. The main thing is, I know you're doing this, so I can say to them, but I know when you're parenting, you're aware, vertically. I know when you're doing the wife thing, you're aware, vertically, right? Okay, and that I told you today was more important than hours and hours in a book.
That's why I heard him
Okay.
say good girl.
Good, good.
It was like,
So that was the piece that freed you.
yes, it was like
Okay.
he said, I see you. I finally heard him say it. I see you. It's okay, sweetheart. It's okay.
Yeah, it is. Look, some of you are not doing the right thing by your children because you say, oh, but I need to be studying and I need to be listening to, and I need. Your job is, you brought children in the world, you need to raise those children, okay? Now, I'm not saying that what you're raising them is gonna mean what they're gonna choose in their life, but when her children are very young, they cannot take care of themselves. So your job is to take care of them and prepare them to take care of themselves. Once they can take care of themselves, good, then move on to something else. But until they can take care of themselves, that is your job. That is your primary responsibility. All right, Shannon.
So I have a question. Because I remember you mentioning you were addressing it more to the men of how about being confident, but I wanted to take that too, because being a good and trustworthy servant, you should have the confidence to do it. And this is kind of like my weird, deep question. I guess for some reason I just want to dig deeper of what exactly confidence means, because for me it's harder because I've never really, I guess, had it. And my question is, well, because I remember you saying that the meaning of meekness is quiet strength. And so my question is is there such thing as quiet confidence? Because I feel and I think that I'm confident, but I'm just more quiet about it. I'm not very loud. I'm not very loud at it, but
Okay, hold on.
I don't know.
Confidence is something either you have or you don't, okay? But it's something that people will feel. It's not something you say. It can be quiet. It's not something that should be loud. Confident is a feeling or a vibration, an energy you give off, okay? If I go and ask you to do something, and you're confident, and you say, I got it, I'll sense that. If you're nervous about it and not sure, and say, I got it, I'll still feel that difference. So confidence is not a loud thing anyway, okay? If you have it, it kind of pours out of you, okay? When I come up here, any sense that I'm nervous? But you sense that congruence with what you do and the comfort with what you do comes across as confident, okay? All right?
Thank you. That does answer my next question of is confident all about how you're feeling or your mindset? So
Yeah.
Thank you. But yes, I do want to say thank you for being my Abba too when I needed one the most, and also I'm proud to say, looking back, of how much I've grown and how more confident I know I've become just being here and growing, and I just really appreciate for all that you do, Rabbi. Thank you.
All right. Absolutely, I appreciate that, Shannon. No problem, and blessings to you. I'm proud of you. You know what? I'm proud of all your daughters. Okay, I am. You guys are just. I can see the growth and the thriving, and actually with you, I've been with you long enough that I got it even to see you, meet a young man and then get married and do your wedding, and that's just a great blessing. Great blessing. All right, Mr. Klein.
Chag Sameach, Rabbi.
Chag Sameach, David.
Not a daughter.
Hey, I got a few sons too. Not you necessarily, but there are a couple of guys they're looking for some mentoring and need a father figure. So,
What would Yeshua do on the wrist?
Oh, by the way, just so it's clear to everybody out in the audience there, whatever, the congregation members at large, I don't approach them, okay? Just so you know, okay? People have asked me if I could do these things for them. Okay, go ahead.
Actually, correction, what did he do, right?
Right, what did he do on your wrist?
Right. Well, Matthew 8:26, which is, of course, the previous chapters you went into in 14
Right.
verses. I thought I recognized from the fear of Yahweh teaching.
Right.
And this is, I imagine, low-hanging fruit. The belief, not fear, should be first response to a challenge, as he's displaying marriages, relationships, and jobs, etc. As flesh, we have to be cognizant of this and work and desire it to be first response until it is. And that's what I got from what you're teaching.
Good.
My question is, but as flesh, not Yeshua, should we be humble enough to acknowledge, be aware that fear is always, whether it's 10th down the list or last on the list, is this there, depending on where your mental stability is or where you are in your struggles or your strifes, just recognize that it's there and be cognizant of it.
All right, so picture like in the sci-fi movies where these guys have like somehow a screen through their vision, and as things happening, choices come up, So you're experiencing something, fear is going to be a choice. But hopefully it's a low choice, and maybe so low down the list you don't even see it on the list because you've got other choices you use more frequently, because the most frequent responses should be at the top choices. So you're gonna get this menu that comes up, this is how you normally react to this. A, B, C, D, E. The bottom should be fear. But if fear is your normal response, it's gonna be right up there as one of the first choices. So fear is not, the potential to be afraid or have a fear response is always there. But you, again, with the executive, function of the brain, you should be able to then choose not to choose fear, but to choose some other choice that's more positive and proactive and correct to Scripture, which is trust, belief, etc., right? Okay? So no, fear does not go away necessarily, but it might as well if you don't ever go down to that part of the menu because you've got it handled so well. Look, some of you were alcoholics at some point in your life, and you've been dry and clean for a really long time, and you can't even imagine having another drink, but it's still there at the bottom of the list, potentially there. You understand what I'm saying? Anything that was a bad habit you kicked, it's still there. Now, the more freshly kicked, still near the top of the list. The more you've handled it for a long time, the more near the bottom of the list, but it's still there, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Okay, so I want to go to the live stream for just a couple real quick, but there was something else I was going to say. I got to remember what it was. You know what? Go to the live stream because I lost the thought handling his question, so I'm sure it'll come back to me.
All right. First one is a comment from E.Z. D. Herrera. The word in Matthew 14 and 8 clarifies to me, if feeling alone we're not, change our tone and step off of our throne, listen, accept, and learn and trust to come to know Abba, Yahweh, and Yeshua, Emunah.
Yes, good comment.
All right, from Michael in New Zealand, Hag Sameach, Rabbi. In Matthew 14, 28 through 30, could this be seen as me at the start of the way, finding you in Ephesians 4:11, and not fully trusting and being tossed by quote-unquote winds until I grow more in trusting him through the anointed teacher today?
Oh, excellent connection, yes, because in Ephesians 4:11 through about 13, it talks about not being tossed around by every wind of teaching, so yes, that's good.
All right, from Olivia Dirth, in Proverbs 25, counsel in the heart of man is like deep water. Reminds me of Ephesians 4:14. I know some versions say tossed by every wave and wind of doctrine. Is this why man of understanding draws and not being tossed?
Is this why man of understanding draws and not being tossed? All right. Well, Olivia, I would go back to the same thing Michael just said, okay? Look, and it talks about, okay, in Proverbs 20, I didn't really focus on that part of the verses I read, but it did say counsel in the heart of a man is like deep waters, okay? And so deep waters also could be counsel if it's good or counsel if it's bad. Remember, you got the lazy at the beginning of that section, you got the one with integrity at the end of that section. And so you want to really understand as you go through it from that point of view. But when you bring Ephesians 4:14 into it, which is what Michael did, I think you guys are both on the same page. Okay, next.
All right. This is the last one, Rabbi, from Matthew A. Regarding the context of Proverbs 20 taught today, would you consider it's possible this wisdom runs parallel with Proverbs 14:23 through 27, with the blessing being exemplified in verse 26 through 27?
In all labor there is profit, but talk of the lips leads only to poverty. Yeah, the crown of the wise is their wealth. The folly of fools is folly. A true witness saves lives, but he who breathes out lies is a betrayer. And the fear of Yahweh is a strong trust. Excellent. And his children have a place of refuge. The fear of Yahweh is a fountain of life, to turn away from the snares of death. Absolutely. Good connections there. Okay? Beautiful. All right. Thank you, everyone. Great job. All right.